Nikki Haley is on fire, so says the donor class, and therein lays the problem. It's the donor class, because she's not on fire with conservative Republican voters, from her support for endless wars to government surveillance and her lackluster views on abortion. So instead, you want to know who is courting the GOP presidential candidate, as she's now able to spend more money in advertisements than Florida Governor Ron DeSantis can, despite him raising more money than her in this election cycle. For context, Haley's campaign is over $11.5 million cash on hand, and she's going to be spending big in Iowa and New Hampshire starting the first week of December, since they are critical states to win as primary elections begin early next year. Well, enough beating around the bush. The Financial Times is reporting the former U.S. ambassador to the UN drew big names to New York events on Tuesday, among them a small meet and greet breakfast with financiers including BlackRock Chief Executive Larry Fink, and an evening fundraiser co-hosted by former Goldman Sachs President Gary Cohn. That was the same day she went on Fox News and was demanding that everyone who makes an account online be forced to basically register with the government with their real names, so no anonymous posting. Since that sounds absolutely insane, especially to Republican voters who have to deal with a federal government weaponized against them at every turn, she then tried walking back her statements the next day to say that American citizens can have anonymous accounts, but not foreign nationals tied to states like China, Iran, or Russia. But like I said at the time, that brings it back to square one, because in order for the government, or big tech, which is basically the government these days, to know who is an American who's allowed to have an anonymous account and who is not, well, you'll still basically have to register with the government so they can sort that out. And even if that information won't be posted publicly online, meaning your name and face attached to everything you write online, there is always the risk, as we already see, of government officials leaking your name to your boss if you post truthful information critical of the government. So any way you slice it, Haley's proposition is a lose-lose one, except for BlackRock and the other ESG monoliths she's looking to for funding and for support. The reason why a multi-trillion-dollar entity like BlackRock would even want social media user verification is because they're pushing for digital payments, so they can eventually have a central bank digital currency, or at least something like it. It would likely be similar to what India already has, in which the biometrics of over 1 billion Indians, including their fingerprints and having the iris of their eyes scanned into a computer and logged, mean that government surveillance systems know everything about them, including bank accounts and other sensitive records, like medical records, that would be rolled into one centralized digital ID. Such digital IDs are the basis for the Chinese social credit scores. If the government has everything about you on file, then at the click of a button, they can exclude you from your own accounts or make your rates specifically higher than others for not playing by their rules. I know we always joke that the Republican Party is controlled opposition, but if we somehow get Haley as our nominee over President Trump, when she's been bought out by BlackRock, then I don't know what else to say. It's even truer than we thought. Joining us now to discuss is West Virginia State Treasurer Riley Moore. He's also running for Congress to represent the state's 2nd Congressional District. Riley, thanks for being here tonight.
Kara, thank you so much for having me.
Great. So as you post on social media, do Republican voters deserve to know if Nikki Haley supports the ESG agenda?
Well, I think it's clear that she does. Why else would she be meeting with somebody like Larry Fink? So you got to remember, Larry Fink has been very clear about controlling behavior. He's made this statement multiple times at places like the World Economic Forum, for instance. So she meets with Larry Fink, and then less than a day later comes out and says you can no longer post anonymously on social media. Just to remind people, posting anonymously, this goes back to the founding of this country. It's called the Federalist Papers, right? We had John Jay and Alexander Hamilton being able to write anonymously. This is part of our country and the fabric of it. She's obviously a shill for the globalist corporate elites in this country. And I think she's absolutely America last. I mean, these are guys that have sold us down the river to China, deindustrialized this country, and taken our jobs and shipped them overseas to make them more wealthy.
That they have, and of course, I've had you on the show before to talk about how you were able to get West Virginia to divest away from BlackRock so that state pensions weren't going toward them, and of course, funding everything that shoots West Virginia in the foot, especially as pertains to the coal industry. But if, again, Larry Fink, a few months ago, I'm sure you saw, he tried to walk back from the ESG label because I think he knows, well, things are kind of souring